There's a look. Marcus Ambrose will start from pole position for the third and final race alongside Scaife. What a battle. Garth Tander versus Jason Bright on the second row of the grid. Murphy and Richards, positions 5 and 6. Rick Kelly and Paul Radisic, who continues to put in some good moves. I mentioned to you Dean Canto, really under the pump. Looks as though he's answering back to his team boss, John Briggs, and Team Better Electrical. Jason Bargwanna is putting in a solid performance for Orcon Racing while things don't really go to plan for his team boss, Mark Larkham, and his teammate Clint Seaton down there. Russell Ingall will start from 17th on the grid. He made up 8 positions in the first lap of race 2, but then he threw them all away towards the end. Max Wilson involved in a fairly heavy dice mid-race. Jones, Dumbrell, Morris and Todd Kelly take us down to 24, from 25 through to 28. Well, look at that. Craig Lowndes is sandwiched all the way back in 27th position. You talk about luck, nothing's gone his way. Jamie Whincup failed to finish in race 2, and Anthony Trapp will start from the very rear of the grid. Focus on Craig Lowndes. All trouble for Paul Morris. Greg Rust.
Yeah, I can tell you, Matty, that the team here have worked frantically in between the last race and this one. A full engine and gearbox change. Paul Sepranich at the front of the car, directing Paul out now into pit lane, but he will start this one from the pits.
All right, mate, thank you. So that makes 32 on the grid, 1 in pit lane. And Paul Morris labours his way up to his starting position.
As usual, there was a bit of hard work on between the heats as we look at Marcus Ambrose. Pretty happy with his car, and to some extent had one of the easiest passes he'll ever have to deal with Scaife missing that gear. Garth Tander's car was, in his words, just perfect. He didn't touch anything, but they did change the gearbox. He said it was notchy going into 4th gear.
I had a chat to both Mark Scaife and Marcus Ambrose just before we got this race underway. Said to both of them, tell me about your start plan. Marcus said to me, I'm calm. I don't do anything until the lights go. I don't focus on anything until I'm in 2nd gear, then I have a look around. Scaife said to me, it's frantic in there, everything's going on. You want to make sure that you've got 100 out of 100 things right. You can just feel the tension inside the cockpit, because there's no question that these two cars are matched for speed. Driver ability is pretty much neck and neck, of course. They've got the hunger. They're tied on points, 126. We've got a green flag. That means in 5 seconds the lights will go out and the race will be on. Ambrose and Scaife at the front row of the grid. Tander and Bright between them. It is neck and neck for the first 10, 20, 50 metres. Down to turn 1. Crunch time. Ambrose is holding on. Scaife is stuck out on the right. Bright goes really wide. And Ambrose shoots through.
Tander. Scaife was held up high. He raced Ambrose all the way to the corner, but that became a perfect invitation for Garth Tander, who moves up a spot. Richards is up to 4th as well in car 11, and Kelly's been turned hard into the wall. That will be huge damage to the right-hand side of that car. Very likely to prompt a safety car. Ripped a wheel off the car as well. Heavy contact for Kelly. We hope he's okay.
Big jolt for Todd Kelly. He's okay. He's talking. That was him onto the radio, back to the Holden Racing team, and the marshals are straight there. Big impact. And a few gingerly steps for Todd Kelly. 7th in race 1, 24th in race 2. And now a shake of the head. Mark Larkham also caught up in that drama. Yellow flags, safety car out onto the circuit.
Let's have a look up the back of the pack here. And what has happened, you can't really, actually it could be that Lowndes and Kelly made contact, but it's so difficult, masked by so many cars. This is the in car of the start. The race to the first corner. Ambrose outbrakes Scaife a little bit. It puts Scaife just high and wide. It was enough for Tander to come through the inside. There he is, a little kiss of the doors. And then Richards tucks in behind there as well. It's a good start for him. It's going to take a little while for these cars to be cleaned up. This will put them in safety car limp mode for a little while everybody settles down and has a think about it. This is the view from Mark Scaife's car. Little jolt of the car under the gear change, and then there's Marcus. Because he's on the inside line, he's just a bit better positioned at that critical point where they were applying the brakes, and there you see Tander go through to second. Ideally, Mark would have wanted to be further to the left to get the slightly cleaner track. And HRT, the frustrated and concerned that one of their cars has had a huge accident.
Todd Kelly racing for Kmart was 4th overall last year at Hidden Valley, this time for HRT. He's going to slide considerably down the list. Put in his
look at that.
second best qualifying performance of the year to be
Look at that
third
damage,
here.
Matthew, just that car there, the whole wheel hub assembly, it's ripped suspension components out, and on the other side of that car is where all the damage is. There's Paul Morris exiting the pit lane. They may have taken the opportunity to continue to do more rectification work. Remember, Paul started from the pit lane. Greg?
Well, Neil, I don't think the clutch settings were quite right. They came in, Paul was having difficulty selecting gears when he was trying to leave pit lane to begin with. They've come in, made a couple of adjustments very quickly and sent him straight back out. Hopefully it's cured.
So, Rusty, that part of the circuit has cost Todd Kelly his day.
The other thing to focus on here, Matthew, is the pit window will open. You can pit under these conditions now, and I believe people will pit.
You can see where they are. It was a little bit further on in 2002, around about where Paul Morris is now, that Todd's brother Rick was caught up in a big-time accident. 2002, 7 cars involved in this. Take a look at this. Rick Kelly is just left there like a pinball. Paul Morris in there, David Bernard was in there, John Faulkner. Bounced around, 7 cars caught up in that a little bit further up the road.
I think what you'll find here, interesting, you'd want to be careful making the decision to come leaping into the pit lane at the moment, because there's big traffic jam potential, and there's people certainly were programmed to come in as soon as the window opened. The danger in this circumstance is you need to have a flexible plan. You need to be able to interact between team manager or crew chief and driver, talk to each other, and as you're cycling in, if there's 400 other blokes in the queue, it's the last place you want to be. This is where you can burn up 5 or 10 extra seconds in that horrible pit lane shuffle. So
that's what caught Russell Ingall out in the second race. He said to me, gee, it was a good idea to come into pit lane when everybody else was in there. It just, like you say, completely and utterly put him behind the 8 ball that he was already sitting behind. So Paul Morris, who started from pit lane, is back in there again.
See, people are starting to roll up. They've got gear out.
They're just quite incredible, these races. Don't really know what Paul Morris has just done. I don't think he stopped. He's just gone straight through there.
Yeah.
So he started from pit lane, Neil. He's got him out. There's been a big-time accident on the first lap.
What they're trying to manage here is they don't want to go a lap down. So, and they might make some advantage in this circumstance, depending on what the issue is. They've obviously they've done a very quick installation of an engine and gearbox, and that doesn't allow for finite adjustment. Look at this. That's a nightmare for some of these guys. Not the first few, but when you're back in that pack there, this will turn into chaos. Let's have a look at, soak all this up. The boys are on the spot.
This is bedlam down here, guys. I can't begin to tell you, both Kmart cars have come in. They're all line astern. Cameron McConville we're with at the moment. The Lansvale team have 2 green tyres up their sleeve, which they're going to stick down the right-hand side of Cameron McConville's car. What happened? He had a fire in the airbox during qualifying, got very little laps in, and they've saved some green tyres, but it is full on down here in pit lane at the moment.
What's happened? We've got Murphy has come out a great beneficiary of that stop. Darryl?
Yes, Neil, the one who lost out of that was Mark Scape. He got dropped off the Jackson with that new rule where they have to let the cars going through go first. He lost 2 spots. He got jumped, by the looks of it, by a couple of cars.
And just to clarify that, for those that missed the earlier race, there's been a little bit of conjecture and confusion up and down the pit lane, really, about how to handle it. When the car controller releases a car that's been serviced, there is an onus on the car controller to make sure that he does it safely. The problem is we had some cars in Perth that were paralleling each other all the way down the lane. So the rule is, the interpretation that's being enforced from this weekend is that cars in the fast lane have right of way. So if you've been released and you're about to depart your pit box, you must yield to the cars, in this case on your left coming through.
A quick head count coming out of pit lane. There was around about 23, 24 cars came in and used that opportunity. There's only one man now who hasn't completed his pit stop while we're in the break. The other guys all started to dive in, but Dean Canto in car 66 hasn't. So he is the leader on the road, but corrected leaders are all lined up behind him. Marcus Ambrose, Greg Murphy was a big winner in that pit lane shuffle. He's now second, and he started fifth. Garth Tander was a bit of a loser. He dropped back down to sixth position on corrected. And remember, he started third, and the dramas just continue for Paul Morris, who's making his 70th career start here this weekend.
Canto finally cycles through this compulsory pit stop, he's going to be absolutely at the tail of the train, so pretty disastrous for him. With the whole field corked up behind him, so green flag, we're racing again.
Another restart. Over a kilometre long this main straight. Something went flying off, a little bit of debris off to the right-hand side of the track. Oh, nervous energy. So much of it taking around turn one. The blue chips on your PlayStation 2 race course show that they've all pitted except Canto.
Scaife made a good move there and snuck up the inside. Oh, look at this. Murphy looking for space. Canto getting assaulted. An awkward spot here for Dean Canto, and Murphy decides, after what he learnt from the earlier race, not to have himself out hung wide there. So he dropped back in behind to make sure he covered the inside line. Remember, it was Tander that passed Murphy in that earlier race when Murphy was hanging out wide there.
Garth Tander's done a bit of muscling in throughout the afternoon. Muscled in on Murphy in race 2 and muscled in on Mark Scaife at the start of race 3.
Look at the gap that Ambrose is now making while everybody else is freighted up there behind Canto.
It's a perilous position to be in for Dean Canto. He's stuck right in the middle.
Murphy positions to get to the inside, and I think he's made it stick, yes. So that releases Murphy. And it's Bright, and then Scaife.
Then Tander, then Richards, Simon Wills. There's Jason Bargwana going through, Cameron McConville. Somebody going wide. Oh, that's one of the Kmart cars, so that'd be young Rick Kelly. And there's big panel damage on one of the Orcon cars, and Rick joins his brother Todd as a spectator.
At least he's got all four wheels on his car at the conclusion of that, and more aggravation here up at turn 4. And this is Mark Noski, and I think it's Paul Wheel in the Team Brock car.
I just wonder how much debris was left on the track when Rick Kelly got tangled up in his incident, because something fairly substantial fell off one of the cars. A 111.2 on lap 7 for Marcus Ambrose, but this will be the real one to have a crack at, because he's got clean road.
9.9 for Ambrose. He made 2 tenths on Murphy that lap, 10.1. Here comes Scaife looking at the inside of Bright. And as you pointed out quite correctly before there, Matthew, the Tander was the one that, after starting from position 3 and getting a pretty reasonable start, was obviously dropped time in that pit stop.
They're the adjusted points after race 2. Jason Bright still leads the championships. Stephen Richards is still second. Marcus Ambrose is in third position. So not much of a change. Quite extraordinary to think that the championship lead is being held by a man who's yet to win a race or around this season. I think somebody crunched a few numbers and put last year's point system into play for this year and had Marcus Ambrose about 120 points ahead. But the point spread is much tighter for 2003. Big dip there as they come down to turn 10 as we take a look at Mark Scaife in position 4. In front of him, his ex-teammate, Jason Bright.
9.8 that time for Ambrose, so he's still enjoying margin. 10 flat for Murphy, 10 flat for Bright, 10 flat for Scaife.
just an extraordinary set of circumstances for all of these races. It just seems, even like the qualifying session, Neil, the first 4 or 5 laps, sometimes the first 2 laps, it's just a massive brain explosion out there. Everything happens, everyone goes crazy, there's offs, crashes, and they settle down after a few restarts.
Bargwanna was the other car that was involved in that incident with Rick Kelly.
And I thought I saw something substantial come off his car. It did. The right rear door is completely missing.
Wow. I don't know that that's in the homologated aero package. Might be an improvement for the AU.
Certainly be cooler. 19th in the championship for Bargs. Now he's got a pretty well bashed up. Look at that. Open slather.
It's a pretty amazing scene, isn't it? You don't see that too often. Good idea of what the roll cage looks like inside a V8 supercar. But he's actually performing very well. He's in amongst it there at the moment, but he's in position 11. Black flag has been issued to Paul Radisich, car number 65.
He'll have to do a drive-through pit lane for a jump start, Neil. Isn't that just a crazy sight?
Look at this, 9-8. Last lap again for Ambrose. The margin is Christmas for him. That's what he needs, his own air. You heard Mark Scaife talk earlier about the fact that you tend to be easier on your rubber and on your car when you're in the lead. You've got clean air, you work to your own rhythm, you're not being fumbled by anybody, you're not in anybody else's hot air. Good news for Ambrose, that margin, 1.2 seconds. Here's Tander. Frustrated that he finds himself now battling in position 6. Well, said before they had to change the box in this car. They didn't touch anything in terms of the suspension setup. The car looked very strong in that previous race. He was able to make effective passes and looked after its tyres.
Take a drink.
The other guy that's come into contention a bit, you wouldn't have considered this yesterday, Matthew, was Russell Ingall, who's moved up to 14th. And they're shuffling their cleanest dirty shirts when it comes to tyre management after losing 4 tyres yesterday. And for him to be up there in that position is a pretty fair effort as well.
Marcus Ambrose has the fastest time at 109.58. He also holds the race lap record as Stephen Richards shoots on by. The lap record stands from 2001 at 109.027. Set by Marcus.
So Canto's yet to stop. Just been passed by Richard. Simon Wills is in there as well. Remember that Canto is in position. He's in 6th at the moment. If you had to freeze the race at this particular point, that's what position he's in. Greg?
Neil, Paul Radisich has just come through pit lane to serve that drive-through. It's cost him an enormous amount of track position. He rejoined at the rear of the field. Just to clarify, the officials in pit lane say it is for a false or jump start at the beginning of the race, not for overlapping on the restart after the safety car.
2 Top Dog Awards for Paul Radisich for 2003, a 5th and an 8th in races 1 and 2, and it's bumped him, well, 2 more spots up the championship ladder. He came here this weekend 9th on the table. He's now 7th. Greg Murphy is in 2nd position in the race. 1.5 seconds behind Marcus Ambrose. Jason Bright is 3rd. And Scaife right on his tail in 4th.
Fastest lap so far recorded by Marcus Ambrose at 9.5. His margin's out to 1.5 seconds. Scaife and Bright are arguing over 3rd position. Ambrose, Murphy, Bright, Scaife, Tander, Richards, Canto, Simon Wills, John Bowe in 9th, then Jason Bargwanna in the top 10 with the door missing from that car. Then Ellery, McConville, Ingall, Ritter, Brad Jones, Jamie Whincup. And when you consider the state of his car in that last event, he's up and amongst it.
Both of these men have 2 pole positions here at Hidden Valley. Bright got the first one in 98 as a Ford driver and was the defending pole sitter until Scaife took it back just yesterday. And on the overall win tally, Scaife has 2 overall round victories here at the Valley, and Jason Bright the one back in 1999. And the battle's been raging while we've been in the break. Up to turn 4.
Scaife's got a little bit more strength late in the stop and certainly in the early part of the turn in. Has a look up the inside at the Valley and sneaks it in there. At the end of the day, Bright just yielded at the critical moment. Scaife to third.
Bright back to fourth. And you can just see there the HRT Mobile starting to pull away. This man is in second position, Greg Murphy. 2.1 seconds behind, that's what it looks like. 2 seconds between him and the blue car in front. PlayStation 2 race score can recap it for you. Murphy's made up 3 spots since the start. That's actually a back marker in the way there, so 2 seconds is even further than what we thought. Good move from Russell Ingall. He's up 7 positions to be inside the top 10.
Yeah, that's a fair comeback, isn't it?
So they're sort of stringing the field out here now, and Marcus Ambrose is the man responsible for it because he's just pulling it further and further away. 2.2 seconds is the gap between first and second. Scaife is a couple of seconds behind Greg Murphy. And then Bright and Tander make up the top 5.
I think Tander's marched up ahead of Bright now as well, just looking at that.
So that's a couple of positions that Jason Bright has surrendered in the space of the last couple of laps. Let's get down to Greg Rust in pit lane. Greg?
Well, Matthew, you were talking about Garth Tander here. It's been a bit of an expensive day as far as the Gary Rogers team is concerned for his teammate, Jamie Whincup. Those of you that followed our coverage of the last race, have a look at this. Jamie had quite a big shunt with the tyre wall. This is the steering rack that came off car 33. You can see the damage on it. It's actually bent this end of the steering rack and broken the tyre rod end in the process. The expense bill keeps going. We go to the upright here. You can see the way the shock absorber is just broken completely away from it. And of course, all of this doesn't take into account panel work and man hours that have been required to fix car 33. They got him out there, but there's a fair bit of work being done by the boys.
That's the pulled umbrella parked on the side there, Rusty. And the rust bucket is starting to get a little bit fuller and fuller. There's a spare door somewhere around there, Rusty, that Jason Barkwan is looking for if you want to throw that in the bucket
Safety
as well.
car. Safety
car because Paul Dumbrell's race is over. He's over the tyre wall. And some fairly intense damage to the front right. So the Audi safety car has been called upon once again on lap 20.
It's a get out of jail card for Mark Scaife. And, you know, Marcus got a terrific break there when Canto was mixed up in that pack. What's happened here? Well, I can tell you what's happened here. He's run into the back of somebody, damaged the radiator, and it's fried itself. And what you're seeing there now is the end result of the engine running with no water, or certainly pretty darn hot. So he's ended up in the back of someone that's done pretty substantial damage around the front of the car.
I don't know if that's a smile or a grimace, or maybe a...
It's definitely not a smile.
Maybe a mixture of the two. Paul Dumbrell is getting a very steep learning curve in the world of V8 supercars. Last year's Konica champion. This is the first time that he's raced here at Darwin. And Larry Perkins is doing everything he can to introduce him to the big bad world, even to the point of confiscating his mobile phone because it was becoming such a nuisance, apparently. Paul Morris is... That's Craig Baird in the Team Kiwi entry. He's in. 35 degrees outside. The average cabin temperature about 46. But Neil, when you are charging full tilt and all of a sudden you start slowing down at 80 k's an hour, things start to cook even worse for a while there, wouldn't they?
Well, several things happen. The heat soaked back through the floor from the pipes and everything under the car is just horrendous. And you've got time to think about it, which is even a bigger problem. So this will be interesting. It's now bunched the field back up. The safety car lights are out. He'll peel off, which he's done. The Audi goes into the pit lane. Ambrose is away. The first three are all in sync with each other. They actually pulled a little gap there because Tander can't pass until he gets alongside that start-finish line area. Pass, I mean, by actually coming up alongside Noski.
No change at the top of the field. Ambrose, Murphy and Scaife go through cleanly. Tander in fourth position. Almost impact there for Stephen Richards. He had to take evasive action to the left-hand side of the track. Look at Jamie Whincup. He's moved up 17 positions. Not bad effort for a car that was completely and utterly shattered at the end of race 2.
back of that pack there. There was a bit of chaos on the way into turn 4. Lots of people with rear brakes locked.
Single file around the horseshoe that is turn 5. Good time to take a little bit of a lock-up for Greg Murphy. He'll know that Scaife is ready to pounce. Check out the order of appearance as they come across the control line after the first flying lap. It doesn't look as though too many people have shuffled around, certainly not in the top 3. Over they go, Ambrose, 1:11.26.
Jason Richards was shuffling down the order there. He was one of the reasons why there were people ducking and weaving at the back of the pack. And someone's actually right across on the full dirty side of the road there. This is Whincup and Lowndes side by side into one. One of the Shell cars in there as well. I think it's Max. Whoa.
There's contact there too. Contact on the way down, contact on the way out between Lowndes and Jamie Whincup. In the end, Whincup gives up that position. So that's the battle for 15th and 16th. Garth Tander has received a drive-through penalty for overtaking before the control line. So exactly what you're talking about, Cromley.
Yeah, I could sort of, it was difficult from the angle that we had of that, but it was running through my mind as he did it. I was sort of thinking, no. And it may not even necessarily be for passing. It could be for overlapping. You're not allowed to actually pull out and run alongside at all. But of course, Tander would have been wanting to get on with it because the 3 lead guys got such a good jump. And car 7, Rodney Forbes, turn around there at the turn 5 hairpin.
It's just the front angle of it. Digs up a little bit more dirt, rejoins the race. This is the fight between Whincup and Craig Lowndes. Now they touch each other there, so that's one.
You see Jamie's gone to the inside to cover, and then Craig's then just jammed it up the inside, grabbed the gas pedal, got track position back from him and
got him again. In terms of the championship, David Bernard's day appears to be over.
He was short-changed a bit in the first stop there. Yeah, he got to go. That's a bit weird. And he actually had to sit and wait in that round of pit stops. And there was a bit of a kerfuffle on the radio about track position and priority there. He's well down the order at the moment. And obviously the problem where you've got a car that starts and stops for whatever reason, you've got a bigger problem.
Remember, FPR have got 3 cars running out there. Here's Russell Ingall. Just a quick word on the championship. If they finish in this order, Jason Bright will still lead the championship after round 6. Stephen Richards will still be second. And even if Marcus Ambrose wins here, which will make it 4 straight wins out of 6, he'll be 3rd on the championship ladder. Leaves you scratching your head. The championship point score. Another incident down here at turn 4. Greg Ritter in the 00 car. Spun around and nothing too major to speak of. Let's get down to pit lane. Darryl Beattie.
I'm down here with Todd Kelly. Todd, any inlight into what happened with that incident earlier with you?
No, I didn't see any of it. I was just, first corner, trying to stay out of trouble for the long race ahead. And all I remember was coming out of turn 1, the car was in a straight line, and somebody just hit me and put me straight into the wall.
How are you as far as your body goes? It was a pretty big hit.
Yeah, it hooked up into the wall pretty hard and spun the car, which gave my neck a bit of a tweak, but the car's torn up pretty bad, so the guys are going to be fairly busy trying to get it back on the track for next weekend.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's hard to get a full understanding of what occurred there. There were several cars in close proximity. I've got a feeling that the Dumbrell car was in there, and I think the Lowndes car was in there as well, and obviously the stewards will take a look at that at the conclusion of the race and just see whether they can unravel what may have occurred. But he shot out of the pack, and as he just described, it just whacked the wall, something fierce, and has ripped that car up. So there's going to be a lot of work down at Clayton for this race team, the Holden Racing team. Scaife's threatening now. That's looking backwards from Greg Murphy's car. And Tander serving his drive-through penalty for either passing before the control line or overlapping. And Garth's clearly unhappy about it, and it's a situation that gets talked about a lot in the drivers' briefings, where a driver is a lap down, hustling them along to make sure they stay in the train. All these cars have got 620 odd, 630 odd horsepower. There's no reason at all why they can't all be line astern, but for some reason there always seems to be an issue where there's lap traffic. You'll get some lag, and the drivers that are on the lead lap and fighting for position get extremely frustrated. And clearly what's happened is that Tander has tried to hustle it on. Oh, Richards. Well, that's not pretty.
That was pretty high-speed impact. Jason Richards nose to tail at turn 1.
And he got, was it Canto? I didn't actually have, it wasn't fully focused on the better electrical car. I was looking at Richards. Whoa, look at the turn in speed that Scaife's got. It was like this when he was making his way back early as well. He just had great speed when he was chasing Jason Bright in that particular zone. His stopping power late in the stop and his turn in speed in sort of this zone here was very good in a couple of places where you need to carry speed on the way in. He's strong on the approach to turn 1. Looks like he's pretty strong up at the complex at 8, 9, 10 as well. Remember that everybody's well and truly used all their tyres this weekend, so they've put on whatever combo they've got in this second part of the race after the tyre stop. The tyres are now pretty hot and mushy, 31 of 35 laps. Haven't got a lot to fight with.
Join the boys tonight for Formula 1 after the movie on 10, Nürburgring in Germany, round 9. Kimi Räikkönen has pole position. Billy and Neil staying up late to bring you that one.
See Scaife just searching for air there. Huge temperature rise in these cars if you stay tucked under the rear wing of another car, a place where the ambient temperature is high. Darryl?
Paul, can you give us any idea what happened with the car there?
Yeah, on one of the restarts there, saw a bit of a concertina effect at the back of the pack, and unfortunately it got hit up the rear and up the front, so the car's just running a little bit hot, and unfortunately we've had to call it a day.
You've had a bit of a biff and badge weekend.
Yeah, it's been for the last couple of races, it's been a little bit disappointing, but you know, the car had a lot of speed this weekend, which is the most disappointing thing. But you know, in Queensland in a couple of weeks we'll bounce back and hopefully have a good showing.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Well, Gary Rogers, you've had a chance to look at the vision of the restart. Give us your take on it. And was Garth in the wrong, do you think?
To be quite frank, Greg, I haven't seen it, but my boys say that he did get to within perhaps what could be deemed as in the wrong. But look, the fact of the matter is the car was a lap or two down. The bloke wasn't even in the race. The people have come to see a race. I mean, something has to be done about these people, the rules. It's not right. You know, we'll cop it and we'll move on. But I mean, something does have to be done because people out there have paid their money and it really makes a sham of the whole thing.
Geez, while Gary Rogers was talking, Craig Lowndes almost leapt through our TV screens. You're watching the rear here of, must be Jamie Whincup's car. No, it couldn't be.
It's Stephen Johnson looking
Stephen
backwards
Johnson,
from Stevie, and Lowndes has got pace in some areas, so CL's kind of monstering him at the moment, but he's struggling in a couple of others. And they're all in a pretty angry pack here. So he's real quick here. It's a little bit like Mark Scaife. He's got pace right in this particular zone in turn 1. Maybe not quite getting off the corners quite as well. And certainly Stephen was a little bit stronger coming onto the front straight.
Craig Lowndes won the first ever race held here in 1998, but overall in the rounds he hasn't finished better than 7th. A little bit of a bogey track for Craig Lowndes. Here's Cameron McConville having a fight with the 3-door mobile of Jason Bargwanna.
Brad Jones from the front left squealing a little bit on the way into 5. Looks like he's got reasonable car pace here. I think he set the 5th quickest time in the race earlier today, in race 2. And, but the problem is it's not much good if you can't use it. That's where qualifying is so good. And that's why, in particular, Marcus and Mark Scaife have been enjoying such strength in recent weekends because they're qualifying well and racing in clean air. Isn't that just a bizarre sight?
About 10 to 15 kilograms lighter.
Well, it'd be a fair old whack. I've never weighed a right rear door on a Falcon. I don't know, but it'd be a few.
Mate, if you want to,
around for long.
There's one over at about turn 2 if you want to go for a wander. Just come back before the end of the race. You've got about two laps to go.
You'd be pretty stiff if you got nailed in post-race scrutineering for being underweight because your door was missing. But I guess things like that do happen from time to time. Just go and sort of gather it up and stand there and hold it.
Battle between Murphy and Scaife on the top of your screen. Whee! Stephen Johnson so close.
See the amount of garbage on that screen, and the wipe has been walking around on it as well. Look at this. Whincup's going to get up the inside of Lowndes. Oh, there's Biffo here. And Whincup makes a pass. Actually, Craig ended up a little worse for wear here. And speaking of worse for wear, Brad's rear bumper assembly and rear guard now touching that tyre. Only a few laps to go, so in fact, final lap, so you wouldn't do anything about it now. You let it smoke its head off.
And out in front, Marcus Ambrose. What a performance. The final lap of this race as Brad Jones is going to lumber on home in car 21 with smoke pouring from the rear. Cameron McConville is still determined to fight Jason Bargwanna for 10th position. Bargs is holding on to a top 10er. Probably the first three-door car to ever finish top 10.
Pretty good performance from Bargwanna, in fact, because he started off the back in yesterday's first race. So,
oh, speaking of, can you believe it? Can you believe it? Jason Bargwanna holding on to a top 10 finish and finds himself on the grass. Ambrose goes through. Greg Murphy is there, and Mark Skaife, for the first time in 5 years, won't have won a round in 5 rounds. But Mark Skaife, Marcus Ambrose, comes across the finish line and collects what is an historic victory. 4 out of 4, the first man for Ford in 26 years. To do that, Falcon Power is...
Murphy coming down pit lane. I thought, oh shit, here we go.
Full bore. So Mark Skaife will finish second overall. He finished race 3 third. And Marcus Ambrose joins Alan Moffat as a Ford driver to win 4 straight rounds of the championship. Moffat won 4 in 73 and 5 in 1977. Man, this guy's hot.
yeah, he's just done a fantastic job. He's really in sync with his team. He's car confident. His car's working beautifully. They're setting it up well. When it isn't right, they know what to adjust, when and by how much, which is always particularly important and impressive. It's just a tremendous job from the Stone brothers.
The numbers are starting to add up on Marcus Ambrose's side. He is a genuine championship threat, a genuine V8 superstar, no question. These are the results from race 3, Shell Helix race score, as Ambrose, Murphy and Skaife on the podium. But after the break, we'll put it all in championship perspective once again, tell you who finished the round overall in what order. You know that Marcus Ambrose has won it. We'll come back and piece it all together after yet another eventful round here in the top end. And Mark Skaife couldn't do it. The pole to winner bogey stays here at Hidden Valley. It's Marcus Ambrose's day yet again. We'll take a break and come back.
Yeah, look, it's probably the toughest yet out of the 4 because you just had to work really hard. It's very hot. Skaife and myself were very close in times, and you know, the start was so critical, and then the pit stops as well. So great job by the boys, and Ken, who's been helping me on the starts. You know, we've just changed our fortunes this year. So credit to the team, and what a great result. You know, let's go for 5 out of 5 now, home track.
We always talk about the searing heat here in Darwin. How taxing was it on you personally today?
It's easier out in front, I've got to say. A couple of years ago, I was down the pack, and that was really hard work. But when you know you can drive the car and win it by just looking after the tyres and things, you know, it makes it so much easier.
Roll on, Queensland. Well done.
Yeah, thank you, Rusty.
Mark, it's been a difficult weekend with starts and also that first corner getting hung out high.
Yeah, a little bit, Daryl. I mean, I missed a gear in the second race, probably cost me the weekend, to be honest. I should have been on pole for the last race if you don't do anything silly. And you know, the last start was a good start between the two of us again. We were absolutely alongside each other, but I couldn't get across to the inside. So then, as you said, you know, you get hung wide, you take the long tour, and you never go any good on the long tour, do you? Especially when Garth or one of the good guys are on the inside.
We are going to see the new car at the next round?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll roll it out there. And I mean, you know, I think this is really encouraging. I mean, the car, whenever we've sort of been able to have a finish, and you know, the bounce of the ball probably hasn't really gone our way so far. But when we, you know, when we finally get the other one out, we'll be up there somewhere.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Tom.
Well, that round victory has eluded you so far, but boy, good points again.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the priority when we're not in a position to win it like we aren't this weekend, and you know, the testing's really starting to hurt us now. I mean, you know, late in the race we just haven't got the tyres that all 3 guys have got in front of us at the moment. So, you know, we need to get out testing, and hopefully that, you know, testing ban will be lifted soon and we can go out and try and catch these guys.
Great weekend, Jace. Well done.
Thanks, Greg.